I'm wearing the scarlet letter after the week that I just had last week, being a woman up here and being demonized for my vote and for my voice. I'm here to let the rest of the world know and the country know I'm on the side of the people. I'm not on the side of the establishment, and I'm going to do the right thing every single time,
this week of
no
all
matter
weeks,
the consequences.
you know, Mace is the victimiest victim to ever victim. I just don't understand this. I mean, regardless of what you think about the speaker fight, and I would wager that most of my audience does not give a rat's ass about who the speaker is. This seems weird. I've said this before. I don't know if what she thinks that the A stands for, a woman or attention or something. But you know, Kane, you know. Were the other lawmakers supposed to wear letters too, and they didn't? So this was her backup. I'm curious. Welcome back to the show. Dana Lash here. You can listen across the country. You can stream the radio program, watch the simulcast as well. And now it looks like it's going to be Congressman Scalise. Steve Scalise is the Republican. He got the nomination for Speaker. Joining us now from the wonderful state of Texas. She's also my representative. Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne joins us from D.C. Good to see you, Congresswoman. Before I get into that, I just want to check with you because I'm just, I'm nothing if not fair, right? I'm all about fairness and, transparency and accountability.
Where are you going with this?
Well, I was going to say, you guys weren't all supposed to wear lettered shirts to spell something out like at a game or something, right?
If so, I did not get that memo.
Okay, I just was checking because I didn't want to be caustic for just the sake of being. Well, I did. I'm not going to lie. So Steve Scalise, is he going to get? Is this going to be the new Speaker of the House?
So we had a conference the last 3 days. The GOP conference has been meeting. Everybody has had an opportunity to get up, have their say. We had the candidates forum last night. They all got heard. They were all had an opportunity to have answers, questions asked, answers given. Anybody who wanted to make a nomination had an opportunity to to nominate anybody. Anyone who wanted to run could run. We had two people who decided to run. You had Steve Scalise and you had Jim Jordan. What you heard overwhelmingly from the conference last night and the night before this morning was we are going to support whichever of these two men get the majority of the conference vote. There's been a lot of discussion about whether or not you do the 217 in private in conference before bringing it to the floor. There was a motion made to change the rules that did not get enough support. So we are going with the rules conference. We have a majority of people voted for Scalise for bringing it to the floor. I think you're right when you say, look, people don't give a rat's ass right now who is the speaker. What we do recognize is that you need to have leadership. I think both Jim Jordan and Steve Scalise have shown leadership. Either one of them that came out of conference, I would support, because what we have seen in the last week, just if we needed to have more reason to hurry up and come to a conclusion, we should not have left last week. We should have done our job. We should have elected a speaker. We should have gotten our appropriations bills done. But when you're looking at what's happening in Israel and you're looking at what's happening with the advancements of Russia, when you're looking at our inflation and what's happening at our southern border, and you get this more than most, one, you've seen it, two, you've researched it, but three, we live in Texas. We've had 8 million people cross into our country illegally, larger than the population of 38 states. 38 states have less population than we've come in, 8 million in the last 2.5 years. We have adult issues. We have real world problems. This is not a game. We're not playing Risk. This is not Call of Duty where if we lose a level, these people come back to life. The horrific images that you are seeing happening in Israel right now are real. We need a leader. We need a leader in the speaker because we don't have it in the Oval Office. And we need to hurry up and get over our drama, which I don't think anybody appreciates, and move on.
Yeah, we're talking with Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne. She's also on the House Ways and Means Committee as well, and Taxation and Oversight subcommittees. I'm going to get into I'm going to talk with you about Israel as well, because you've been over there, you've experienced this. I want to ask real quick, just to clarify for everybody watching, the Speaker Pro Tem, because this has been a huge debate, apparently. This is actually the one thing that people do care about. They care about how many responsibilities the Pro Temp has. It's a temporary position. They can't do much.
Yeah. They can't. I think Patrick McHenry has been very clear. I have a very, very narrow ability to do anything. I can't bring bills to the floor. He can get a new speaker elected. That's pretty much all that he can do. And he has been very clear about that. There's been no overstepping. of authority from Patrick McHenry, and he has been able to push the conference to come to a conclusion. We did. We've had all, democracy is being run in our GOP conference. I just hope that when we get to the floor, we're able to support, Steve Scalise, who got the majority of votes, and able to move on.
Yeah. And how, because it seems like this was, I think there were a lot of questions as to how quickly there would be a Republican nominee. I was actually kind of surprised that you guys came out today and it's Scalise already. I don't know why I was thinking that this was going to be long and drawn out. There were stories like McCarthy was considering running again. But then he said he is absolutely not. And he was apparently telling people, do not nominate me for this. I'm not going to do it. Jordan seemed like he was reluctant to do it. He didn't really want to do it. Other people absolutely. I mean, you're getting beat. It's a hard position. 5-seat majority. You're getting beat up. It's tough. How is Scalise? Because
four-seat majority.
Oh, sorry, 4-seat majority. Steve Scalise. There is the question of his health. And that's not, I'm not saying that as a pejorative or in any way. I mean, out of genuine concern, because he's going through chemotherapy. He's dealing with cancer. He's a survivor and a fighter. We know that much. But the chemotherapy, he's got a physical fight as well as now the mental one if he wins the speakership, which he very well may. How is that going to work?
Well, I asked him the same question. I've talked to both these candidates, both these men, a number of times over the last week. Then when I knew that they were interested, and I asked Steve the same question. I said, that's a concern because you're going to be traveling, you're going to be, having to speak, you're going to be in front of interviewers, you're going to have to be raising money, you're going to have to be the voice, really, of the Republican Party. You're going to be the leader, and you're going to be talking about what we're doing in the House and carrying strong votes. You're right. I don't know anybody who would want this job right now. But he fought for it. And what he has said is he's going to MD Anderson. He spoke with his doctors. His doctors had given him a clean bill to move forward with this. They had originally expected that the number of months that he was going to be in treatment was going to be, 4 to 6 months? And it's now 2 to 4 months because the chemo that he's already had has really worked to advance on the treatment. So I think that's between him and his doctors. I've asked the question. I think he's answered it, sufficiently. His doctors are supportive. His wife is supportive. He feels like he can do it. And like I said, we've seen him fight through harsher battle that seemingly were, he didn't stand a chance, and he did. And this is what revs him. This is what really focuses him. And he has given his commitment that he is ready health wise. And if that's the only thing that people are thinking of, they need to talk to his doctor.
Yeah, true. Is he going to get the votes, you think?
I don't know. I mean, that's the great question. Again, we're not playing games here.
Exactly.
We lack leadership.
And there's the sense of urgency as well. And I wanted to ask you about this too, because obviously nobody anticipated what was going to happen over the weekend. Nobody could have ever foreseen anything like this happening. Yeah. But the House is locked in what they could do. I understand that there are certain things that, for the lack of a better way to put it, appropriations that auto renew, especially when it concerns Israel. But there's also, what if something goes sideways, God forbid? What if something goes terribly wrong and we find ourselves in a situation where, we have to have Congress maybe approve a little bit more? How does that weigh into this? I can imagine that that's on your shoulders, pretty heavily.
Yeah. Well, you're right. What happens if it goes beyond Israel? We're looking at Russia now getting more and more forceful and aggressive with Ukraine. Are you going to see China taking advantage of what's going on in the world stage to get more and more aggressive with Taiwan? There's a lot of reasons why you want to make sure that you've got a leader in that seat and you're able to bring bills forward, because you don't know. And even if it's not war, if it's a natural disaster, how are we going to be able to respond to that? We saw what happened in Maui. Nobody would have expected that would happen, but you've got to be able to act quickly. We need to be able to come together as a group. The fact that you have a handful of people that can hold the rest of the country, and quite honestly, the rest of the world is watching what is happening in our capital. It's important that we have that vote, that we get a speaker in place, and that we are able to continue moving forward with legislation. We have an appropriations bill. We're in the middle of a 45-day CR. If we don't have the ability to be able to get those appropriations bills done, to be able to attack our spending and figure out, it's one thing to say we're not going to spend as much. It's another thing to say, okay, where are you going to cut? And that's where the hard work comes in. And that's where we all have to be together as a conference. We can all say, well, we want to cut spending. Where? Let's get down to the nitty gritty and let's identify it instead of having these distractions. And quite honestly, the speaker's race, again, I think we should have come back last week. I don't think we ever should have gone home. But we are where we are. We need to quickly pick somebody and move on. And both of those gentlemen have shown leadership. They have been strong conservatives, and they both deserve a vote. One of them got the majority. We need to go out on the floor and vote for him.
I'm talking with Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne. I wanted to ask you about another fellow Congresswoman, Rashida Tlaib. She's got, a flag for the Gaza Strip for one of the Palestinian territories outside of her office. And she's always been very emotional when talking about kids at the border, especially under the previous administration. She's been on camera crying about it, about kids, in cages and all this other stuff. But when asked what she thought about Hamas's murder of children and the beheading of babies, she's been silent about it. She still has the flag outside of her office. How do you feel about that? I mean, do you think that she has a responsibility to respond, considering how she has demonstrated her emotions previously, especially for narratives at the southern border?
I think she has a responsibility to respond. I think she has a responsibility to be able to represent the 700,000+ people that she represents. I was in Israel last year. I took my 21-year-old son over there, and we visited the kibbutz that you are now seeing the massacre that happened, and the children, dozens of babies who were heads were cut off. Recognizing the fact that the families that we visited with are probably dead or being held hostage. That is a horrific feel, and these are real life images of the horror that is happening by animals that are committing these atrocities. We have got to come together as a conference, as a country, recognize that we're not the enemy. We've seen the face of the enemy. We have seen what they are capable of. That is what we need to stand together and fight against. This is Israel's 9/11. Are we going to have their back? Recognizing the fact that we have got a very strong partnership with them. We were the first country to identify them as a state, to recognize them as a state, that we have trading partners with them, that there was a number of Israeli-American dual citizenship, that we have 22 Americans right now who've been murdered and countless others that are being held hostage. We have things that we've got to get done, not only over there, but at home, when we're looking at our inflation, when we're looking at our energy costs, when we're looking at what's happening in our streets with fentanyl. We have things that we have to get done. This is not a time for children to be in office. This is a time for adults to come to the table, have these legitimate discussions, and move forward.
There you go. Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne from the beautiful Republic of Texas, 24th District. Good to see you, Congresswoman, and thank you for what you're doing in D.C. We appreciate you.
Thank you.